Hi YouTube, Watchify here with another video. This is just a quick video to update on a few recent mods I've done and to also tell the story of a mod that went horribly wrong. So the mod that went wrong involved my Seiko SRPE 55, also known as the Dress KX. The 4R36 movement started running very inaccurately, so I tried of course to demagnetize it and then regulate it. On the time grapher, it was really erratic and it had a very low amplitude, so I knew something was wrong with the movement, but I was still hoping that I could save it. This 4R36 movement had a Roman numeral alternate day of the week wheel, by the way, which actually was the only watch I owned that had that, so it was a bummer that it went bad. The 4R36 movement would run okay for a day or so, but then go back to being over a minute fast per day. I finally decided to change out the movement to an NH36 with a white Kanji day wheel, and at the same time I was going to change out the OEM flat Harlex crystal to a flat sapphire crystal with blue AR coating. These NH36 movements with Kanji wheels aren't cheap, by the way, and it cost me $60. It arrived, and since I've done these movement swaps before, I thought it would be a quick mod. Well, it all went bad when the new movement fell out of my hand and onto the floor. It only fell a couple of feet, but the temporary stem and crown was still in the movement, and the stem broke off inside the movement. I tried to get it out with tweezers and banging it on a desk, hoping it would fall out, but it was stuck. So at that point I decided to use a spare 7S36 movement that I had. It was a good movement and originally came in my Seiko SNZG13, so it had a black day and date wheel. During the course of removing the old crystal, the press bit I was using to press out the old crystal was a little too large, so it damaged the chapter ring. I think I was just in a hurry at that point and was being careless. It's here when I considered giving up, and I probably should have determined that this mod was cursed, but I examined the damaged chapter ring and it wasn't that noticeable, so I pressed ahead and got the new crystal installed. I then swapped the dowel and hands onto the 7S36 movement. I reused the old 4R36 movement ring, but for some reason it wouldn't let me seat the movement into the case. While trying to take out the partially installed movement, the dial got caught on something and ripped out the hands. Luckily, the dial and hands were not damaged, so I changed out the movement ring to a gray NH36 one, reinstalled the hands, and this time I was able to seat the movement properly inside the case. Shortly after that, I noticed the day and date wheel were not in alignment. Well, it turns out that since the 7S36 came from a 3 o'clock crown watch, and this watch case is a 4 o'clock crown, that's why the date is misaligned. At that point, I could have lived with it, but it turns out that the day and date wheels from an NH36 and 7S movements are interchangeable. I went back and swapped out the day and date wheels from the broken NH36 movement into the 7S36 movement to finally finish the mod. I eventually removed the NH36 movement bridge and was able to get the broken stem out, but when I put it back together, the crown won't operate anymore, and I don't have the expertise to take the movement fully apart to fix it. I'm happy with the end result, and I really like how the flat blue AR sapphire crystal looks on this watch, but this mod all told took me half a day to finish. It is kind of a bummer that this replacement movement doesn't hack or hand wind, but it's running very accurately now, and I can at least do the back hack trick with this movement. As for the damaged chapter ring, it does kind of bother me, but honestly it's hard to notice unless you're looking for it. Maybe one day I'll go back and swap it out for a loom chapter ring. Thankfully, the other mod I did was pretty uneventful. I changed out the 7S26 movement on this Seiko SKX009 to an NH36 movement with Kanji wheels and added a coin edge bezel and a Kanji stainless steel bezel insert. I like how this turned out, and I like how it looks on this strap code oyster style bracelet that I already had. Another minor mod I did was change out the OEM chapter ring on my Seiko SRPD 65 to this polished black one. This is one of my watches that I never did a video on since the dial, hands, and movement are from my original SRPD 65, but I transplanted it into the case of a different 5KX model that I had lying around to get the all black look. I had also done some other mods to it, so it looks very different from the original OEM SRPD 65. It's a bit of a Frankenstein watch, but I really like how it looks now. The last thing I wanted to mention is that I summoned up the courage to try to fix my Seiko SPB143 bezel alignment issue that I had mentioned in the review video I did on that watch. Looking back on it, I guess the reason I got it pre-owned from a watch dealer for such a good discount and it being in flawless condition was that what probably happened is someone bought it new and noticed the misalignment and returned it. This was one of those watches where I couldn't find a way to easily pop off the bezel, so I removed the movement in crystal and gently removed the bezel insert from underneath and reapplied it so now it aligns. I of course was hesitating since this is my most expensive watch, but after a while my OCD was kicking in, so I decided to give it a shot. I guess the other thing I would want to mention is that modding watches can be rewarding for sure, but there's also a real risk that you can damage your watch, which will cause you to either have to spend more time and money to fix things and replace parts or live with some cosmetic damage. If things go wrong, it could also hurt the resale value if you ever wanted to sell your watch. I was seriously questioning why people even do this to their watches when I was dealing with the SRPE 55 ordeal. I am by no means a watch modding expert, I just do this as a hobby and I still make plenty of mistakes. I get that the majority of people buy a watch from a store and never once think of messing with it, and that's okay too. That'll be it for this video. If you found it interesting or helpful, feel free to leave a like, comment, or even consider subscribing. Of course, I wanted to thank you for watching and hopefully I'll see you in another video.